Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. You are our core group that is going to get the Our Neighborhood Voices initiative onto the ballot in November 2022. And all the friends that you can drag in to help you, we'll make sure that that happens as well. What we're going to cover today basically are the rules, the requirements, the process for collecting those signatures. And one of the reasons that we ask you to go through a training class on this is that the rules are very, very legally specific. And the only way we're going to get to the qualified almost 1 million signatures to get this on the ballot is if everybody does this in the way that's correct, so that the registrars of voters in all the counties count all of our signatures and don't throw them out or don't ding us and only count a certain percentage over all of our signatures because we have a lot of mistakes. So we're asking you to pay a lot of attention to what seems to be incredibly nitpicky things, but those are the nitpicky things that we have to do right to make our signatures count. It'll take us about 20 minutes to get through the basics, and then we'll answer questions after that. Thanks very much for coming. So, as you all know, over the last few years, Sacramento has been passing more and more laws that allow developers to build multi-story, multi-unit buildings right next door to single family, especially most recently with SB 9 and 10. And we represent a coalition of thousands of Californians who are going to fight back to preserve our ability to speak up on behalf of our neighborhoods. In my other life, I am the vice mayor of Los Altos, but I'm speaking with you today as one of the volunteers who cares about taking back our right to speak up about what happens in our neighborhood. So here is what you can do to help after today's session. First, go to the ourneighborhoodvoices.com website and click up at the top on the tab that says Action Kit. And that Action Kit is going to give you a whole bunch of resources that you're going to need to do the job. The one thing it will not give you are actual copies of the petition. And the first question we usually get is, can we download petitions online? And the answer is no, you can't. There are a whole bunch of legal parameters for doing that that really make it impractical for this particular effort for us to do that. But you will get a bunch of other things online that you're going to need. You will be getting petitions either from a local captain in your city or area, or directly from someone at the central distribution point for the campaign. So let's take a look at what's in your action kit. The first thing for you to know are some parameters. First of all, to do signatures collection, you have to be 18 years of age. And so I'm assuming everybody here is that. But if people ask you, and we also are telling you this so that you're prepared to engage and enroll other people in helping us. So everybody has to be at least 18. You as a signature gatherer must witness every signature. You cannot leave this at someone's house to be filled out. You can't pass it around in a room or in a group of people. You can't have one member of a couple, and this sometimes comes up especially with elderly couples where one person is just more capable of writing at this point in their life, where someone may say, well, can I fill this out for my wife or husband? No, the person has to fill it out entirely for themselves, and you have to witness what they are doing. And when you see just how particular the requirements are, you'll understand why we're saying you have to watch every single signature. You have to answer truthfully if you're asked if you're a paid or a volunteer signature collector. You're all volunteers, we're all volunteers. And actually, we find that that helps the credibility of what we're doing. So don't hesitate to say, I'm your neighbor, I'm a volunteer, and this is why I'm here collecting these signatures. You must allow the prospective signer to read the measure and to read what's called the title and summary. And we're going to walk you through the actual petition document, so you'll see how that works. Here's a few things that we want to be sure don't happen. Okay, we don't want you ever, ever, ever to make copies of and use the information that you get when you collect the signatures. You can separately ask people if they want to be informed about information about the campaign, refer them to the website, and so on, but you cannot use the information gathered in petition signature collection for any other campaign purpose. You cannot deliberately misrepresent or intentionally make false statements about what the purpose or the provisions of the initiative are. So the easy one for that is if someone asks you a question and you don't know the answer, you say, gee, I really don't directly know the question. Why don't you go to our website? There's a lot of information on the website. And then you cannot offer anything of value to the prospective signer in exchange for their signature. So there's two key parts to the petition, or two key people. There's you, the signature collector, and then the person who's signing. And you can, or someone can be the same. They can be the signer and the collector, but obviously only once. So if you're gathering friends and family and neighbors together, and some of you did this, or a lot of people did this over the recent holiday and are looking forward to doing it in the coming holidays, you should think of yourself primarily as you're the circulator, whereas other folks are the signers. And there's a specific parts of the form that you're going to fill out because you are the circulator. So Rob's going to put up here now a sample of the petition. We're going to show you what it takes to do this. First of all, you're going to want to get a long legal size clipboard, because this petition is 8.5 by 14 inches, and you can't fold it under or fold it in half. So you want a legal size clipboard, 8.5 by to hold 8.5 by 14 piece of paper, and blue and black ink pens only. And please, not markers and Sharpies and things like that, but you know, good old fashioned black or blue ink pens. So in addition to the petition, you have to have available something that's called the top funders document. By state law, anyone who's going to sign or potentially sign a petition for an initiative has the right to know who are the top funders. That's defined as any person or organization who has given more than $50,000 and were required to show at most the top 3 funders. So if we have someone who's given 50,000, someone who's given 50,000, and 2 people who've given 75,000, you show the 275 and the 60,000, and you don't show the 4th ranked person at the $50,000 level. So right now we have 2 people / organizations that have given more than $50,000. So our current top funder sheet, which is effective now, and for those of you who may have heard or participated up until now, we had only 1 person until last week. Now we have a 2nd person who made a very substantial contribution. So now we've updated our top funders sheet, and that sheet is going to be updated every month during the campaign because the top funders will change. So you don't want to go out and print a bazillion of these, but you do need to have a couple with you when you go out. So make sure that you've got the current one. Again, this is under the tool, the kit tab on the website. You'll be able to print this off. And then when you're talking with people, you show it to these are our top funders, or do you want to see what our top funders are? You need to be sure that you give them the opportunity to look at that, because as you'll see in a minute, you're going to have to sign basically in that you're attesting that you did that. So the petition basically looks like an overgrown greeting card. It's 4 pages. It's a big piece of paper that's folded in half. The folded size is 8.5 by 14. So what you're seeing here is the opened version of what's on the front and what's on the back. And the top of the front and the back are identical. Both of them are the title and summary provided by the Attorney General. So that's the legal title and summary, not prepared by the campaign. This was prepared by the Attorney General. And you must display this. People have to have the opportunity to read the title and summary. And that's why you can't fold this thing down and hide part of that when you're using a smaller clipboard. That's why we want you to get a big clipboard. Very important. You must have all the signatures that are on a given petition from people who are registered in the same county. I live in Santa Clara County. So if I'm going to circulate this particular petition, I need to enter Santa Clara in the blanks that are pointed to by these red arrows that are on the front and the back. And when I talk with people, I need to ask them, are you registered to vote? What county are you registered in? If they say Santa Clara, great, I have them sign this. Now, can I have someone who's registered in San Francisco sign a petition that I'm circulating? Yes, I can, but it has to be a whole different petition. And on that one, I would need to enter San Francisco in these blanks pointed to by this red arrow on the front and the back. And then anyone who's registered in San Francisco can sign that petition. But I cannot mix and match. People who are registered in San Francisco can't sign the Santa Clara, can't sign the Los Angeles, can't sign the San Diego. The reason for that is that all these petitions are sorted by county, and they are actually quality reviewed and counted by the respective registrar of voters for that county. So if I've got a signature from San Francisco on my Santa Clara County petition, it becomes an invalid signature and it goes against us in the counting. So this is really, really important that you have people sign only the petition that's got the county filled in on these two blanks. That's the county where they are registered. So that's a biggie. Thanks. How do you get started? Well, I suggest you develop your own elevator pitch. Maybe you practice it with your family and friends. Start by saying hello, ask if they're registered to vote, ask where they're registered to vote, verify the county, which we've been talking about. Be polite and respectful. And if they want to ask, 15 questions about something, don't get involved in a debate. Don't get involved in a boo-ha. Our experience is if people ask you more than, 2 or 3 questions, they probably aren't going to sign, and you're better off saying thank you and going on to someone else. Or just say, I really think you'll find the information you need on the website. Thank you for your time, and move on. Find a graceful way to move on and don't get engaged in big debates with people. The exact pitch you're going to give really depends on your community. This initiative is all about letting what's going on in our respective communities drive how we solve our housing issues, including affordable housing. And so we're not going to tell you, here's the thing to say, because in your community, you may have a particular issue that's important in your community, and you want to weave that into your opening conversation about the initiative. And we encourage you to do that. What we don't want you to do is make up stuff or say something that's not legally supported. So that's really important. Where can you collect? So technically you can collect in any public space. That means you can be in the parks, you can be outside of community buildings. You cannot go in the buildings, but you can be outside as long as you're not obstructing traffic. A lot of people find, especially this time of year, being outside the post office is really effective because there's a lot of post office traffic. There's a lot of traffic around big stores, and you can go there in other heavily because that's actually considered public space because it's public access, and you are not soliciting. What you are doing is you're exercising your First Amendment rights. And there are court cases about that and so on, so that you can can also walk around neighborhoods. And even if someone says no solicitation, you're not selling anything. You're there to exercise your First Amendment rights. And, people may or may not answer the door, but, you're not soliciting. You're asking them to participate in a protected First Amendment right in our country. So one of the problems we get into is if there are single-use lots, like you have a grocery store and it's a standalone grocery store with its standalone parking lot, it's not therefore considered the same kind of public place. We suggest that you ask for permission in those circumstances. But if you've got a big mall, that's considered public space and you can go there. If you get challenged, we really prefer you not get into an argument with, the manager or whatever. Let us know what's going on. We may have some suggestions for you about going back, but please don't get into a boo-ha. And that goes for any interaction. If you have someone who challenges you about this, don't get into a boo-ha. Be aware that with cameras on cell phones now the way they are, there's a lot of videoing that goes on. Don't get involved in anything you wouldn't want to see on the 6 o'clock news. That's the short version. Do not, under any circumstance, go into or use a government building, the inside of a government building. That's a big no-no. And if you're going to leave something behind, like if you're walking a neighborhood, do not put anything in a postal box, and if there's mailboxes or through a mail slot, because using the postal service that way is against the law. So we don't want you to do that either. Thanks. Now, here we go. Signing the petition. This is where, believe it or not, it's crazy, but gets people in lots of trouble. The very first upper left corner line is where they're supposed to print their name. Underneath is for the signature. You cannot believe the number of people that start out signing on the upper line and then they go, oh, oops, I guess I was supposed to print my name here. So what I like to do is basically to stand facing the person at a respectful distance. And I literally point with my finger upside down and say, please be sure you print your name on this first line and sign underneath. The next thing you need to know is that the address is the number and street name. And that's on the upper line in the red here, the pink. And underneath is the city. And we ask that you put in the zip code. It doesn't say zip code right now. Our next printing will have zip codes, and you don't really have to have the zip code, but it's preferred if it's there. Please be sure people do not abbreviate the city. LA can be Los Altos or Los Angeles. And so we want you to have people spell out the city. That's really, really important. Mountain View, spell it out. And all the cities we have that have San at the beginning, it's not S period, it's San Marcos, San Dimas, San Diego. Make sure they spell it out. Thanks. And you're going to run into questions, by the way, about, what's my right name? What am I supposed to sign with? And most of the time, people have registered to vote when they've moved and changed their driver's license and they registered through the DMV. So you can pretty much tell people, look, put your name and sign your name the way it is on your driver's license. And most people are going to have their driver's license with them. And that's going to work vast majority of time. Now, this is the next really tricky thing, and that is they have to stay within the lines, just like when you learned how to do this in kindergarten and color within the lines. There are boxes, as you can see, on the left and the right of the signature area that are blank. Those are used by the registrar of voters when they're validating the petition. You cannot allow people to go outside of their box and into the left margin box that's clear, the right margin box, or below into the next signature block. So a lot of people take Post-it notes and they put a Post-it note across there. And then you tell people, and especially people that have swoopy doopy signatures, they have G's and Z's and P's. and say, you might want to sign a little above the line. I know it's a small space. We really need you to stay within this box. And every day, I'll tell you, every day I get a phone call from someone who says, oh, gee, they went over into the right-hand margin by like, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Is that still okay? No, we cannot guarantee that that's okay. We want all our signatures to count. The registrars of voters have discretion whether to accept that signature or throw it out. The only way to guarantee that that signature is going to be counted is if it is entirely and completely and only within that signature box. It's the hardest thing about doing this, to be honest, but it's the reason why you want to observe every signature. And with everyone, you want to start out by saying, please be sure you print your name on this top line and sign underneath. Please be sure that you sign maybe above the line a little to make sure you don't bleed into the next box below. I know these are really small spaces. Please scrunch your address so you don't run over into the box on the right. You really do have to talk people through every single one. So here are some of our nightmares. And you can see the kind of problems that can happen. And this is the reason why we're so insistent, because the registrar, and especially with things that go over into the next block, it can obscure the next name. People will go, oh, but it doesn't really, they can still read it. It doesn't matter. The registrar of voters can still decide to throw out both of these signatures. And we don't want that to happen. And then the same with where they run over in the right. So just wanted you to have a visual of the kinds of things we run into. Thank you. And we talked about that you can't fill the form out for any voter, and no one can have a third party fill it out. They have to fill it out for themselves. But really, really important, please never, ever fill out anything for the voter, because if you do that and it's videoed, and we end up with this, you know how things fly around on Twitter now, it can really affect the credibility of the campaign. Then this is the part you get to sign. On the bottom of the back page is your declaration that says who you are, your address. It gives the 2 dates when you started collecting the signatures on that petition, which only has 8 spaces, and then the date you collected the last one. Those might be the same days, and that's okay. In fact, we hope that's a good thing, because you're filling up a whole bunch of these all in one day. What I would do is I would fill out the material in yellow before you go out. So you've got your name, your address, and the first day that you're going out. Then when you have filled up the petition, you're going to fill in what's in red here, which is the last day that you collected, where and when, and you're going to sign it. Do not fill out this red material until after you have filled up the petition, unless you've only got 1 signature or 2 or 3 or 4, and you know you're not going to get any more. Then if you're done, if you're really done, and this happens sometimes with people who say, oh, well, you know, I was at a party, I took signature packets with me, and I had 3 people there from such and such a county that's not my county, so I just grabbed them. I don't expect I'm going to get any more. And so then you're done. Go ahead and fill everything out and turn them in. Here's a few more items to remember. The blue and black ink, to make sure that they get all 4 blanks filled in. Print their name, sign their name, street number and name, city and zip code. They don't have to say California. And then take the petitions home, keep them in a safe, dry place. We don't want them to get coffee on them. If they get dirty, again, they can be discounted by the registrar of voters. The way we're approaching most of our volunteer signature gathering, at least for the beginning part of this campaign, is by trying to identify a captain in each city and then someone to kind of manage the whole county. And so you'll want to rely on your captain as to when and where and how they want you to turn in the signatures. At some point, it may be that we have you mail them back, but for right now, unless we've told you specifically to mail them back, they're going to go back to your captain, who is probably the person who gave you the blank signatures to start with. So we talked about this, but I want to reinforce it, that you cannot use the signatures for any other purpose than qualifying the measure. So we have people who are running for election. They can go out and collect signatures. They cannot use that information for their campaign. That would be completely improper. On the toolkit that's online in that tab, that action kit tab, you will find a 2-page hints of do's and don'ts. You might want to keep that handy and refer to it before you go out. It's just a good reminder of the many things that we've covered during this training session. And you'll also find another document which is, there's a kind of a cheat sheet, if you will, of arguments for the campaign. And you can print that and keep copies of it with you. And if you want, you can distribute those if someone really wants something to take away, but it's not intended that you're going to print and distribute a lot of those, because quite frankly, what we find is that most people, like if you're outside of a post office or a public place, as opposed to walking around the neighborhood, if you're at a public place and you start giving out a lot of these, pretty soon they end up on the ground, they're trash, it looks trashy. Again, it's not good for the credibility of the campaign. But there is a little 1-page cheat sheet under that action kit tab as well that you can use. Other ways you can help, and these are all really important. There's only 2 things we really need to make this campaign work for us. One is signatures and the other is money. And we have to have money to be successful. We know we're going to be going up against a lot of very powerful interests. They're the ones who have successfully taken away our voices at the through the state legislature. And they are going to be opposing this. We know that. So we need to have the funds to help pay, our campaign advisors, to help supplement our volunteer effort, and to run advertisements and so on. So we really do need money, and every bit helps. Even if people are just donating a little bit online, you can donate online electronically. There's also a way to donate online with a check. Most people nowadays seems to want to use the electronic. If you have a big donor and a potential big donor, we're happy to help you talk with them. We do have a couple of professional fundraisers we're working with to be able to get really significant donations. So if you know someone that you think is a potential really significant donor, be in touch with us and let us help you with that. And then spread the word on social media. So you all know how to do that.